So today is lesson 8, and hopefully everybody had a good reading week, got a chance to get off their computer, out of their home office for a little while, and hopefully get some sunshine. So what's going on this week? We're going to keep working with our shopping cart. We're going to look at using the session object in .NET Core. It's a little different than how we worked with the sessions in our previous course. And then for next week, you'll have a quiz. And then assignment 2, part 1 is going to be due next Tuesday before our next class. So you have a week to finish your assignment 2, part 1 and do your quiz. There's no other graded learning activity this week. And that'll actually be, I think we probably, well, actually, I'll come to that next week. Don't worry about it. So let's dive in. Let's open up our clothing store. So fire up Visual Studio. Let's get our project running. And you may also want to connect to your database in Management Studio. So I've already got my project open. And I'll just get it running. So this week we want to work on our shopping cart. And then next week, we want to work on the checkout, where we also want to integrate a payment gateway. So we can actually send payments to a payment authorization service. So where did we leave off a couple weeks ago? We had our shop link. And when we clicked on it, this was kind of the last thing we built. We rebuilt our shop index page, so that it would show the list of categories in our store in alphabetical order, and each category would be in one of these bootstrap cards, and the category names would be clickable. So when I click on any category, it's going to call the browse method and pass in the ID of the category I selected. And we got a blank page because this was as far as we got. So the first thing we want to do today is we want to work on this browse page. So what should happen here? What should we see as a customer? We go to the shop. When we click on a category, what should we be showing people in this page?
Rich, sorry, it's Mike. Before we get too far into this,
sure.
Did you ever get the Microsoft Authentication working? Remember we were having trouble as a group last time, like that was 2 weeks ago, right? We had trouble as a group trying to get that working. I tried to get it working yesterday on my project, and it says the Microsoft ad is deprecated. So I didn't know if you had gone back to that or looked at that at all.
You know what, Mike? Thank you for reminding me. The simple answer is no. I completely forgot, as I've been working on the shopping cart and payment. So thank you for reminding me. If you wouldn't mind, Mike, if you want to send me an email about it, just so I have it in my inbox as a to-do item, I promise I will tackle that and share it with everybody. I apologize for that. Thank you for bringing that up.
All right, no problem.
Okay, Sierra. Well, maybe we'll. I see you have a meeting for tomorrow, so maybe we can look at yours tomorrow. But yes, I will go through it again. Thank you for raising that. Okay, so I'm just going to come back to my question here. So what should we show on our shop browse page after our customer clicks on a category? What should be on this page? Okay, could be in season, but keep in mind the user's already giving us some information on the previous page. So by clicking on one of the categories, what are they telling us they want to see? Right, Sierra, that's what I'm thinking. If they click on shoes, we want to display all the products in the database. Yep, okay, so yeah, so Lindsay, everything in the category, Kevin, same. So we're going to want to create a similar page to this one, but instead of showing the categories, we want to show the products that belong to that category. So first we're going to need to write the code in our browse method to take in the category ID, fetch the list of products from the database that match that category, And then we'll use a similar kind of user interface to display these Bootstrap cards with the different products. So I'm going to open up my shop controller. So what we want to write is our shop browse method, where we get a category ID. So we're going to create a new method called browse. And we're not, yes, Manjinder, I am recording it, but thank you for reminding me. I always appreciate the reminders. I did forget to start it the other day, so thanks. So our browse method is going to take an integer parameter, right? We're not browsing all the products. We're browsing a specific category based on the ID that's on the end of our URL. So our index method has no parameters, but our browse method is going to have an ID parameter. So we want to query the DB for the products in the selected category. Load the browse view and pass the list of products for display. So these are the two things we want to do here. So it's kind of similar to what we did in our index method, where we're fetching the list of categories and also displaying them alphabetically. But we also will want a where clause in this query. We want to filter the result. We don't want the entire product catalog, only the products in the selected category. So I'll create a variable that I'll call products. And then we'll use our database context, our connection class. And now we're going to use our products DB set that we've declared in our application DB context. Now, because we want to filter the list of products, we're going to add a where clause. So which item should I choose here in my little context menu that pops up? What field are we going to use to filter the products? Okay, we actually have a couple choices. We can use the category. That's an object. So you're close, Lindsay. I'm actually going to use the category ID, which is the foreign key, right? Every product has a category ID foreign key. So we're going to say where our product category ID is equal to the ID parameter of the method. So if our URL is shop browse 3, we want to get the products where category ID would be equal to 3. We also want to sort the list alphabetically by our product name. And then we'll convert this to a list. And then what would we need to do on line 38 to load our view and also hand it the list of product data? What code would go on line 38 where my cursor is? So yes, Dan, you're right. We want to return the view. That will load the page. And thank you, Lindsay. We also need to pass it now, our products variable that we're declaring and populating in the previous command. So there's our method. It's fairly straightforward. I'll just open up a tab, browser tab, where I can copy this to. So here's our new browse method. Only 2 lines of code. Run a query with the filter. load the view and pass the filter. So I'll throw the link in the chat for you if you need it. So what's our next step? I think our view looks good. What do we need to do next? You got it, Kevin. So let's create a view. Under Views and Shop, we're going to create a view called Browse. We're just going to create it as an empty view. Most of the code we need, we can copy from the index view. So I'm going to go to Views and Shop. I'll right click and I'll choose Add a View. Again, so that's in Views, Shop. I'm going to right click and choose Add a View. I'm going to pick an empty view and click Add. I'm going to call it Browse so it matches the name of the method in the controller. Now, most of this code I can take out. So our view is going to receive a list of products. So what should we do at the top? How do we indicate on the top of the view file that a list of products is going to be passed in from the controller's browse method? Our view is expecting some data. We need to declare what kind of data is coming in. Yep, you got it. So we're going to declare a model. So our model is going to be our project name. Whoops. And it's going to be of type IEnumerable because it's a list. Whoops, this should be a lowercase, I believe. There. Sorry. IEnumerable. Would help if I spelled it right. That's the problem. So our page is going to accept a list of products. Now for the HTML, I'm just going to copy most of it from my index view. So our page, our browse page, is going to look similar to this one. We just want to display the list of products, and then we'll add some additional things to it. So let's go to our shop index view. And let's just copy. I'm actually just going to copy everything from line 3. Whoops. Everything except the first line, I'm just going to copy and paste from my index view. We'll copy it. Everything except the model, because our index is showing categories and our browse is showing products. But we can just paste it in. And now we'll have to make some changes here, but let's see what happens. So now I'm going to click on shirts. And it should show me all of the products in the shirt category. If you need the code from the index, it's on GitHub from our last lesson. Okay. What happened? Maybe let's build the solution. Okay, so we have an action result called browse. Oh. Whoops. The problem is in the link here. My link, notice it's calling store browse. I need to change the links on my index view. I'd written the controller as store, but we don't have a store controller. We've got a shop controller. So on the shop index, we've got to change this link. On line 17, where I've highlighted it, it says ASP controller. I had it as store. It's got to be shop. So let's change that on our index. Then I can go back and try it again. No wonder it's not working. Calling a controller that doesn't exist. So I'll reload my index. And now when I click a category, I get 5 products. If I go back, I get 1 product. I click shoes, I get 1. Okay, so our browse page is working. But we want to add to this page now. Actually, before we do, I'm going to make one other little change. It's functional here. If I go back to my browse page. But notice on lines 11, 17, in a couple places, I've used a variable called C. Well, that made sense to call my variable C to represent the item in our loop on index because we're representing C as a category. On this page, this variable is actually representing a product. So it's functional with the word C as a variable name. I'm going to change it to a P just so that it's a little more descriptive. P for product. I also want to change these links because right now, if I save that change, watch what happens when I click on a product. Where does it take me? It's going to take me, call the same page again. It's calling store browse, but now passing in a product ID. What should users see when they click on a particular product? So when they click on a category, we want to show them the list of products. But what do you expect to see when you're shopping online and you click a product name from the list? Right, we should go to the product details. So you're absolutely right, Dan. So we want to make a couple changes here. What changes could we make to line 17 so the product names will now link to the product details? There's 2 changes we want to make to this line. What two changes should we make? Okay, yep, Jeffrey, so what should our controller be? Instead of store, You got it. It's going to call the products controller. What method in the products controller do we want to call that will display a page that shows all the information about that one product? You got it, Kevin. All right. So we're going to change our controller to products and our action to details. Okay, Rachana, good guess, but remember the index, that lists all the products. Here, when we click on a name, I only want to see the details of the beige sweater. So we want to call the details method. Make sense? Okay, so let's try it. I'll refresh. Lindsay, occasionally the server stops, so just hit debug and start without debugging again. Okay. So it's trying to load the product details, but I'm locked out of this page. I'll come to your questions in just a minute. So this page right now, everything in our products controller is private. What if we want to override the security and make the product details public? Because it's a read-only page. Users can't modify stuff. So what would we need to do in our products controller to allow our details page to show up? I'll open up the products controller. You got it, Dan, that's right. So our products controller, we've said at the controller level, only administrators have access. And that's fine for most of the controller. But if I click my little drop down here, at the top right, it shows all the methods. If I open the detail, if I click on the details method, which for me is on line 35, above this method, if we add allow anonymous, then as a customer, I can load the details page. This is going to override the controller level security rules. So add allow anonymous above your details method. And I'm going to go back, click on another product. This time I should be allowed in, even though I'm not logged into the site and I'm not an administrator. So now I get a product details page. We'll make some changes to this page. But now you can maybe start to see how our different pages and even our different controllers are fitting together. We used the scaffolding to build this page, so we didn't have to create it ourselves. Although we'll make some changes to it. Okay, your error, why P is not in the current context. Probably because you didn't change line 11 is the most likely. So Daniel, Lindsay, that we had our variable was declared as C originally when we copied the code, and then we were referencing it here and here. I wanted to rename that variable in all cases because P is more descriptive because in this case it's product. So Lindsay, yours still says P doesn't exist in the current context?
Yeah, so I've been following along and I've changed it, and then like I refresh and I click bottoms or shirts and it still says this local page cannot be found.
Okay, check the URL.
When I click it, it says store browse to.
Right, that's why, because we had to change on the index method. I had the controller name as store, which was an error. We don't have a store controller. The controller name's got to be shop.
Oh, on the index method.
Yeah, on those category links, when you click
Oh.
a category, I had it pointing to the wrong controller name. I've done this lesson many times, and sometimes I called the controller store, sometimes I called it shop, so I confused myself.
Okay, so give me a quick sec while it reloads. And, okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, good. All right, so now we've got our browse. We want to add to this page. If you're shopping and you see a list of products, we've got the product names. What other information would you maybe want to see right here in this page? May not be everything about the product, but certainly there's going to be more details here we should include. The price for sure. Yep. What else should we add? Yeah, Rachana, great idea. Yeah, Mike, we could add the category name. That's a good idea. And the image. Okay, let's do all of those things. And then inside of each one of these cards, we're going to add a quantity box and an add to cart. So users could go into the product details and click add to cart here. We're going to replicate it there as well. But sometimes if we see a product, we know how many we want, we should just be able to add it to cart right away, right? The easier we make it for people to buy, the more sales our site is going to have. So let's start adding some of these things to browse. First of all, on our product name, let's make the text a little bigger. So maybe we'll give this a class, this link. Let's give this a class of H5. Should make a name a little bigger. And then underneath it, we can put the price. And I'll put this in an H6 tag. So we can put out P dot price. So this will now display the price below the product name, and it should also increase the text size a little bit on those product links. So I've added that H5 class to my link, and I've added an H6 tag below. We'll refresh. Okay, so we've got our prices. Now, they're not formatted as currency. So we also want to add use a formatting function here to reformat the price so it displays as currency. So I'm going to use Jeffrey, it's in the link. It's already up on, it's here. It's in the paste bin link I put up, which I'll paste in again for you. Okay? No problem. So we're going to use string.format, and then we'll use Microsoft's kind of bizarre currency format, which is 0:C, C for currency. So if I wrap the price inside that currency format and reload, our price formatting should get cleaned up. Right, so now we get dollars and cents for all our prices. We can check and display the image as a little thumbnail as well. Now I'm just going to look, let's see here. I think we used a placeholder image in our products index. I'm going to open it up. Yeah, we did. We said if the image wasn't null in our admin page, display the image. Otherwise, we wanted to display our placeholder. So we can use this same code. So you can find this if you open up your views and products and index. I'm going to grab this same code, although we just need to change the variable name. So I'm going to copy that if statement. Why rewrite it when we've already got the logic? So copy the if statement around the image, whether we're displaying the product image or displaying our placeholder. I'm going to copy that, go back to browse, and underneath the price, I'm going to paste it in. Now notice Visual Studio is going to complain about this item variable. Our variable is not called item in this page, it's called P. So I got to change line 19, my p.image here and here. When we're done, I'll upload the whole code to Pastebin for you as well in case you miss anything. So don't stress if you fall a bit behind. And we'll take our breaks today around 20 or 30 past the hour as opposed to on the hour since we started at 11:30. So this should either show a thumbnail of the product image or our placeholder image that we added to the site last week. Right under www.root image, product uploads, we had our placeholder. Okay. So when we have a product image, it appears. If we don't, we get our placeholder instead. So we're doing not too bad. We're making good progress. This is actually kind of starting to look like an e-commerce site. Now, Mike, you recommended we include our category name up here. I think that's a good idea. I mean, a user clicks on a link here, but we're not giving any indication on this page anymore. What category are they shopping in? So let's add that. So we can use the view bag for this. We'll need to go back to our browse method for a minute and pull up. We'll need to query and fetch the category name. So you're going to go back to browse. We want to get the category name for display in the page heading. So we'll say viewbag.category equals so if we call find, we can just pass in the ID directly. We don't need to use one of these lambda expressions. It only works when we're passing in a primary key value. It's a bit of a shortcut. I could use a where clause like this, but because we're querying on a primary key, I don't need to. Categories.find.name. So this is going to give us the name attribute for the selected category ID. And we're going to stick this in the view bag. So I'm going to insert this into my browse method before we return the view. And then we can display this in our browse method. Okay, so we'll add this line to the browse method. Sorry, we can display this in the browse view. Yes, it's running a separate query, correct. We may be able to pull it out. I'm just curious if we did this. Oh, you know what? We don't need a separate query, actually. That's a faster way of doing it. We can just do it this way. Or would we need to include it? You know what? I'll leave it for now. There are a few different ways of doing it. So now on my browse page, instead of saying shop our store, we could just put our heading to say shop our ubag.category. So it'll say shop our shirts, shop our shoes, shop our bottoms. I can even do the same in the title. I could append on so this way, when the user's looking at the products, they can see the category that they chose. I think that was a good suggestion, Mike. So let's see how that works. I'll go back to the shop link and I'll start again. So when I click on shirts, my heading says shop our shirts. I click bottoms.
I just tried something. If if you go over to the browse view, and we're going through our list of products in the for each loop.
Yep.
If you just put @p.category.name, that has the name. That has the category name in it. So
it does have it, but I think in order to display it, it would work, but I think we'll need to modify the query. I think we would need an include here. So yes, we could do it this way. I'll show this should work as well. If we say .include, so we'd have to include the parent object, I believe, Mike. I know it shows it in the view, but I think it will show up blank without this piece. So if I do this, I then would need to add a reference to Entity Framework Core in order to get the parent object. So this should work. And then I'll comment this out. Either will work, but yes, this will save us from doing a separate query.
yeah,
So we could say category equals products, for example, 0.category.name.
Yeah, I'm seeing it straight away. I think because we have the category object associated with each product.
Okay.
But
all right. So you saw that even without the include,
right? Pulling it out from one individual.
Okay. I'll take it out and see. I'll try it this way.
Yeah, try it.
Okay. It's a good suggestion. It's certainly a little more efficient than querying the database a second time. If it works that way, excellent.
Yeah, on the browse view, I just stuck it in line 16. And
see, yeah, when I do it this way,
I just put that in, and then that.
I think I need that include in the query. I've got to join it to the parent, or this is null. The category is not included. I think with my include function, I think this way it should work. Right. Okay, so yes, you can use p.category.name
Like I was saying, it's in the loop. If you're in
Right.
the loop, it does it.
Right, but I want to display this in the before our loop.
Right.
So that's my one challenge. I want to display it in the page title and in the heading. Yeah, inside our loop, we'll have access to it, but I want it before we get the loop.
Anyways, all right.
So if we include the parent in our query, we can then read that way. We don't need to use a separate query. So I'll update this on Pastebin. It'll generate a new link, which I will paste. So there's the final version of our method. So we're going to include the parent, and then we'll just take the first product, and the category is going to be the same for all of the products. We'll stick that in the view bag. So then we can use that value from the view bag in our page title and our H1 tag.
Right. Yeah, that's probably the easiest way.
So it's looking pretty good. So now what we need is we want to allow the users, they can go in, we want to allow them to add to their cart from here, but we also want to allow them to add to cart right here. So we can just add a little form in each Bootstrap card with a label, a quantity input, and an add to cart button. So after our image, we're going to create a form with a post method, and our action is going to be shop / add to cart. So this is add to cart isn't actually going to be a visible page. It's just going to be a method that will process the request to add this item to the shopping cart, and then we're going to redirect the user. So there isn't going to be an add to cart, a separate view. So in our form, we need a couple things. Let's look at this for a minute. If we're going to put on an add to cart button, that add to cart method is going to need two pieces of information. What two pieces of information will we need? So that method's going to have two parameters. What are the two things we need to add to cart? Yep, Jeffrey and brilliant, great. We need the product ID and we need the price. So the customer wants this many of this product. So the product ID, we've already got it. We've got it up here, p.id. We're just going to put that in a hidden field. So we're going to have input name equals product ID, and our ID equals product ID. Our type will be hidden. So the users don't need to see it, but it's got to be included in the form. And our value is going to be at p.id. We're almost done with this, so once I'm done, I will put a copy of the whole HTML on Pastebin for you. It's also almost time for a break, so I will be pushing to GitHub. We then are going to create a little div with a class of form group. Actually, you know what? I'll put it in as a field set, which would be better. I'll use the Bootstrap control label for quantity. And our label will say quantity. Beside it, we're just going to have a simple text box, input name equals quantity, and ID also equals quantity. Our type is number. We should also set min and max values here. What should our minimum and maximum values be that would make sense? For letting users pick the quantity of a product they want to buy. Okay, so yeah, so min I think should be 1. We don't want to let somebody order 0. For max, Dan, that's a good suggestion about stock. For now, I'll just maybe put in a high number. I'll also add that it's required, so they can't click add to cart if they haven't chosen a quantity. And then after my field set, let's put on a button. And the button text will say add to cart. I'm going to tweak this a little bit in a minute. But let's have a look. We're almost due for a break. I will be pushing all this to GitHub in a minute. So here's our form. How does it look? We'll just reload our page for a minute. Okay, so not bad. So if I cannot go below 1. I cannot type characters. My values are required, so I can't click add to cart. Only other thing I want to do, our quantity box is pretty wide. I want to shrink it a bit. So we've already got this class for our thumbnail. We can apply that class to our quantity input as well, and it'll make it narrower. So on my quantity box, I'm also going to add class equals thumb. Even though it's not an image, it'll be the same width now as our photos. So just add class equals thumb. And I think this little form is finished. There, so that's better. We don't need it to be quite so wide. Users aren't going to type, they're just going to pick a number. Now if I add to cart, we get a blank screen. That's fine, that's where we want to be. Now it's about 20 after 12. I'm going to push everything up to GitHub. I'll also just copy all the HTML onto Pastebin and put the link in the chat for you. If you're a bit behind, you can get caught up. When we come back, step 1 is we're going to modify our product details. We're going to include an add to cart here and make the other changes necessary to this page. And once we've cleaned up this page, we need to write our add to cart method and then build a cart page that will display all the items in the cart. We can use scaffolding to generate it, and then we're going to have to make a bunch of customizations to it. Okay. So I'm going to pause my recording. I will share this stuff both on GitHub and on Pastebin for you, and we will resume at 12:30. I need to get up and stretch my legs for a couple minutes.